You ever park your car somewhere and then turn around and look at it in the parking lot before you go into the store? Yeah, I kind of do that now every time I walk downstairs. But actually, the reason of this video is if you've read the title, I made another wheel. And my friend Brian, that I do the 24-hour races with, and we do a lot of oval stuff together on iRacing, he needed a smaller diameter GT style wheel. And couldn't find one, so I offered to make him one. And now I'm basically going to show you how I did it. So welcome to Z-Wings Workshop. And here we go. Now, where do you start when you start building a wheel? Let's show you. Here is the material. Right now we have a 1/4 inch piece of aluminum plate. For the handles, we're going to use this piece of walnut. And I love the graining on it, and we need to find some bookend matches. So we'll probably use this side for the back, this side for the face. We'll split in the middle. It's too thin to resaw, so that's going to be it, back and forth. Now we're going to stain it a true black is the stain, and yeah, you're not going to see a lot of the graining, but it's not that big of a deal. When the light hits it and sealed, it'll pop. Now we'll go over it here. This is the wheel we're going to recreate. And he actually has one of these, but he doesn't like it. It's too big. Right now it is measuring 11 1/4 or 11 3/4, and actually I have the window scaled, so it is exactly this is the exact size of the wheel. Now, just like we did the number 11 on the front nose bumper project, we made a rubbing or a tracing of the wheel. Finding center line is the red line. Let's bring you over here. So you have the original center line, and then we have this line. This line is going to be the new center line, because then it gives you a 9.5 inch wide wheel, which is what he wants. So obviously this chunk is going to be the wood. The big area will be the full dish. Now I have a hub, which gives me perfect drilling and mounting holes, and we're going to use that as a drilling template when we go to mount the holes. Now all this is going to get transferred to this sheet of masonite underneath it, 1/4 inch, and we're going to make a template out of this shape onto this with the holes, and we'll use that template for the right side, and then we'll flip the template over for the left side. And to mount it to the wood and even to the sheet metal, or the aluminum, we'll actually be using the same exact holes for every single part of the process, so everything should stay nice and symmetrical and work out really good. I'm not a huge fan of sticky tape. I know a lot of guys use 2A tape for stuff like that. If I can find a mechanical way to fasten that stuff, I'm always going to do it. And I usually always do find a mechanical way to fasten it, opposed to sticky double-sided tape. With the tracing now complete, you can see everything traced over really nice. Now the edges are jaggedy. Again, it doesn't matter how you mark it, doesn't matter how you measure it, it's how you cut it that matters. So we're going to make sure everything's pretty with the template. You can see I've got the circle. It's kind of in the center line of the circle here. Now to get these properly drilled out perfectly, this is something I made a long time ago. And it's just basically a Allen key with a sharp tip on it. I don't know if it'll focus, but this Allen key fits perfectly into here. So I can basically just take this guy, stick it into where I need it to. We'll actually have this firmly mounted in the center where it needs to go and lined up just perfectly so it doesn't move. And basically once you get the Allen key in here, you could just kind of dig it down in there, and you will see it makes a nice hole. After spending a bit of time, I got this template set up. You can see the hash marks, which were made by a knife. They are the center lines, so that'll be the mark I use to line it up when I flip pieces over. Yeah, it looks good. Everything's nice and smooth. So the router will go through there and clear the edge. Now I also went ahead and just kind of rough estimate what I need to pre-cut before I hit it with the router, before I transfer templates and whatnot. So yeah, we're in good shape. This has got to get cut out. I actually started to cut it out, but my blades were not working. I'm going to just go with you know, a regular cutting disc, and I'll be able to get into all these little grooves, and I'll use a flap wheel to get it tight. In here, I'll start off with some hole saws, and then I'll just kind of widen it out until I'm ready to hit it with the router. I may even go and kind of freehand router it just to get it as close as possible until I go with a nice flush trim bit that I'm going to use for this. I want to keep that bit in good shape because we're going to need it for all the wood. I probably should do the wood first, and I might, but we're in good shape. So let's get this guy cut out, and we'll get some pieces made. I did exactly what I said I was going to do. I used a router, bandsaw, the flap wheel, discs, and I freehanded these with the router bit, and then trimmed this up with the flap wheel so it's rough shape, ready to go. I also drilled all the holes just with a small 1/8 inch bit just to get them centered. I don't exactly know how big I want to go, and I want to keep it as small as possible. I did the same thing with these. I only have 2 for these because we're going to need half and half. We're only going to need pretty much from here down just these chunks. But the way I have this set up, that's why it looks maybe kind of weird. I'll lay the template over using these 2 holes to mount. Then we're going to flip it over. Same 2 holes. Get mounted for the other side. And then we got obviously 2 of them. We're going to get in here. We're going to trim everything up with a router. I got a brand new router bit. I'm still debating if I'm going to use this or the table. The table obviously is more powerful. But bad things can happen on the table too. So it might be easier just to hold the piece, set this guy up, and just kind of do its thing. But yeah, we're going to get them rough cut out now. Or I shouldn't say rough cut out, but final cut. And I think I am going to start with the wood to preserve this bit. But then what I might do is, after I get this wood put on, I might mount this wood to here and use the wood as then the template for that, instead of using the actual template. So we'll see what I do. It's pretty cool looking shavings. You got a lot of these little aluminum chunks and black walnut together. Pretty nice. Yeah, I ended up using the router and that little flush cut trim, and it gave me a steering wheel sandwich. As you can see, you got your top 2 pieces, you got your dish, and then the bottom 2. I'll tell you, that machine finish on the edge looks awesome. We are going to sand it and polish it. I'm still debating if we're going to do this a polish finish, like a matte finish, or paint it. The thing with the paint is, I mean, your hands are going to be up here. The paint will eventually wear. I know that already from my wheel. Powder coat, it's not really an option. I'm not looking at doing that. But next thing we're going to do is we're going to get these things like temporary mounted. And we're going to actually mount the whole thing so I can start doing the proper shaping that I need to do. And so we're going to end up putting, basically, we're going to put screws from the bottom through this plate into the top piece of wood. And then that's going to sandwich it all together. We're not going to glue it or anything yet. We're just going to set that up for right now, just to keep these together. Then I could go through and give it a final shaping, even though everything is lining up really nice. But just to go through and give it a good sanding along the edge. And then I got to figure out what we're going to do for the finish, because I want to get this surface prepped before I bend it, because it'll be harder to sand into the corner when it's bent. And then obviously after it's bent, I'm going to have to give it a little bit more sanding anyway, but I'd like to at least get 90% of the sanding done. The other thing too is I'm thinking about this logo here that I really want to do. I'm debating or not if I'm going to do it. I was looking at the Toyota logo. It's going to be a little tricky, but I might try it anyway, even in a scrap piece, just to see how it turns out. Wow, what a mess. Yeah, I've been busy. This is kind of what the workbench looks like when I'm figuring out how to do stuff. Shit's everywhere. So I went to the logo. Tried it freehand. Tried a couple different options with the Dremel and some other stuff. Not really that happy with how it turned out. But that's kind of what I'm looking for. I want it to be indented a little bit with maybe kind of like a round over type of a deal. I did take a little step back on this only because now these lines here, these are where they're going to be cut. You can see this kind of V here. That's where your thumb is. That's going to be the shape. And then this ridge, this line here is kind of where I'm thinking the center line is going to be. So basically I went over here and you can see I've got 3 dots. These dots are where I'm going to be able to put the screws And I think we'll get 3 screws in here, and then eventually it's going to get glued. But you can see I did transfer some of the lines, so that's all the wood you're going to see on both faces. Now, as far as the logo goes, I've been dialing it in, trying to figure it out. This is eventually what I came up with, and I'm temporarily doing on wood. Now, you can see this little thing. Yeah, don't worry about that little thing. That was just a little weirdness. So this is what I came up with. You've got the oval. You go through with the router, and I've got a I don't know if you can see it, the round bit, round head, 1/4 inch round head, and then the collet. And the collet will basically run around here. That's your first step. Obviously, this piece will get clamped to the dish. Come on, zoom in, focus, there you go. Then after that's done, this little piece gets inserted into here. That'll take care of the top swipe of the Toyota logo. Okay. Then I've got these little guys. Well, really just one. So I got one for one side, and I even put like a little pin so it locks it into place. That's kind of what happened here. I tested it and it moved, so that's why it went wide. The little pin will keep it square and keep it not moving. And then you basically flip around and do the same thing on the other side. So we're going to test this a couple times. We're going to make sure it works good on the wood. And then, if all goes well, if I get a good one on the wood, I got this piece of scrap aluminum. See, I don't even throw away scraps. This was from my original wheel way back when. So I've been practicing on that. If I get it good on the wood, if I get it good on here, we could bring it to the dish and all will be well. The workbench is clean, so that means I got somewhere. You can see, not that one, this one right here. Worked out pretty good in the wood. There's a little nick, but that's not the end of the world. Worked out really decent in the aluminum, at least spacing and everything. Again, another nick, but they were never really cleaned up before I painted it. So that is just completely routed without any touching. Here's what I did. I ended up redoing everything. So we got a new full circle. This is not the Eye of Sauron, but that's going to be the middle swipe. And I even redid this guy too. So everything works out pretty good. The logo isn't perfect. I mean, I know the actual Toyota logo has more of a curve in this area, and some of these are curved. It's not perfect, but it's good enough. I mean, it looks better than that. So now, with this being all cleaned up, and everything is flush now, we could take this guy apart. We'll give this guy a sanding, center it up, and we're gonna go live. Well, it was a success. Not absolutely perfect, but we kind of knew that going into it. And I'm slowly zooming out because the focus has been weird. I also went a little bit above and beyond. I routed all the edges. I still have yet to put the little thumb divots in there, but then I rough cut the piece too. So I'm going to have to get equal marking to make everything symmetrical from this side to this side and then bottom. But I just wanted to kind of put it all together and feel how it is. The screws I'm using in the back may get replaced to something a little different. They're holding, they're working, but I know there's better options. And then I still got to put a little bit of a bend on the dish. But yeah, it feels awesome in my hand, even without the little thumb grooves. But yeah, I'm digging it. Hopefully Brian will like it too. I think the Toyota is going to come out really nice after I get some etching primer on it, and then we're going to paint that blue. And then I still got to decide if we're going to go this like frosted brushed look, or we're just going to polish it. I know the edges and the back will be polished. I might just do the face too. And just sanding, buffing, polishing. And yeah, so we will take you to the next step where everything should be somewhat ready to go. We've done all the shaping. The outside is fit and flush. Inside rings are fit and flush. We went through, shaped all the ends of both sides, made everything match. Did the back side also. You can see too, maybe some of the shadow lights. This is kind of thinner, and then this makes just a ridge along the back. And there's a little bitty divot here. I don't know if you can kind of see that. Same thing on the other side. I did change out 2 screws. I am going to still put very thin little tiny plugs in there, but we'll do that after everything is painted and sealed, and those will be just done later on. But we still have to go back and sand the back, and I still have to bend the dish itself. But yeah, the Toyota logo came out really nice. Just got it protected right now. You'll be able to see it a little later. So next step is to pull everything apart again. give this dish itself a final sanding, ready for polish sanding, and then bend it. Well, I cannot lie, I had a hard time dishing it out. This stuff is pretty thick. I was able to get a slight bend to it. It's not much, but it's something. And I also did the final sand. And I threw some mineral spirits over this. This doesn't have stain on it. It's just mineral spirits waiting for stain. But man, look at that grain. It looks awesome. I almost want to just leave it like that. But no, we're going to go black with it. And hopefully, under heavy light, you'll be able to see some of this grain pop through. But this is going to get a stain. They're going to get sealed. They almost kind of look like antlers, if you think about it. And then we're going to basically, we still got to polish the back of this. This just needs a final sanding on the inside of the rings, and then we can go through and polish it. The face is pretty much done. This way it's protected, so we're not going to mess with that at all. And then basically it's assembly and ship it over to them. But here it is. The pieces have been sealed. We saw them, didn't get them stained. Then what I also did was, you can kind of see there's the plugs. And then basically after the plugs were popped in, I sealed it once again, after throwing some stain on there. They were sanded flat and, cut flat and all that fun stuff. The back is good. And then here's the face. You can see the Toyota logo kind of came out okay. There's still a little bit of spot to it up here I'm not really super happy with, but that's kind of just how it is. Come on, focus again. And yes. Now, Brian is a Kyle Busch fan. Now, if you follow NASCAR at all, Kyle Busch is going to be running Chevys next year. So, wah, 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 wah. Yeah, that's just kind of how it is. So hopefully he's going to like it, though. I'm getting ready to box it up. I'll make a box out of this piece of cardboard I have laying around, and I'm going to protect it up. What I have in here is screws for him. Nice chromey polished hex heads. They'll go in there. I gave him some washers, too. He's got a hex key, so that should work out good for him. And that's basically it. Feels great in the hand. It looks nice and super glossy. It's just got a beautiful smooth finish to it. Basically, too, what I did was I used a 2-part epoxy, glued each piece in, and then after it was glued in, I screwed it in through the backside. I waited till all the epoxy was done, popped the plugs in, stained them, sanded them, stained them. Then I basically taped everything off, resprayed the backs here, and yeah, we were in good shape. So yeah, it feels pretty good. I like it. I'm definitely going to keep the templates because I might make a similar wheel eventually for myself, because I've always wanted kind of a GT style wheel, and this does feel pretty nice, and it's based off of the McLaren Fanatec wheel. Okay, there you go. That's wheel number 2 in the books. Will I make more wheels? Probably. When? Who knows? But Brian did receive it. He actually used it for a race yesterday. Here's a shot of him. I'm going to try and put a picture of him with it bolted up. He did have one screw that was weird, but we got him dialed away on that. So he should be all good to go. He said he liked it. He said it felt good. Whether or not he's lying to me, I'm still good with it either way. It was kind of unfortunate that Kyle Busch moved to a Chevy, and I was either too early or too late on the draw with making the wheel. So maybe one day I might actually go ahead and make him a Chevy wheel. But that's it. Please like and subscribe, and thanks again for watching the video. We'll see you guys next time. Bye now.